Hey everyone, it's been a while since I made a video, but I wanted to make one today talking about some of the updates and changes that I've been making to the factory since the last video I published. I have been doing some somewhat regular live streams on this channel of me just working around the factory doing miscellaneous things, but there are some things that I've changed since before I started streaming and also just some stuff that I do off camera, and I figured it would be nice to make a somewhat short video showing all that stuff without having to sift through hours and hours worth of live stream footage. So yeah, we're just going to get started talking about some of the stuff I've been up to. Now we're out in the exterior of the factory here, but this is actually where the least amount of work has been done, but we're going to start with it first. It's mainly just been detail work that I've been doing on the roof. So it's been real minor stuff like this over here. I added in the little glass skylights that are on this part of the building. There's no, hole through the skylights yet. They're just solid with the roof underneath, but eventually I'll, carve that out so it's an actual skylight. And then over on this side, there are a few more of them. Right in this area, although they are not actually glass, they're just a stone shape. And then me adding these in here caused me to have to move these little roof details back a little bit. And now this area of the roof is much more accurate to the model used in the movie. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then right over here I added in some storage tanks that are also seen briefly in the movie in like a single shot during the elevator ride at the end of the movie. There's a good overhead shot and it shows some tanks right here with some diagonal pipes that go into this part of the building. So I put those in. And then lastly, on the complete opposite side of the building, I added in 2 more tanks, which I also tried to put in a correct spot based off of the shots in the movie. So those are right here. I do have a lot more work to do on the exterior. It's not actually even close to being done. The entire backside of the factory, there has to be a train station added with quite a large rail yard in the back that needs to get put in. And then as you can see, the entire back of the factory is still just a very flat, plain wall. So adding in the train station will help, finish this area off. I just haven't done it yet because it's in the back. And then I do still plan to eventually add in the city that is in front of the factory. But those are the main things that I have done to the exterior. So the next thing I'm going to talk about has to do with the main chimney, or more so the structure inside the chimney. I finally added in the details on the inside of the cables or metal supports, whatever they are, that you see as the elevator is going up. You pass by them very quickly, and I've been meaning to put this in for a while. I finally did it, and it adds a nice sense of speed whenever you're taking the up and out elevator to the top as you shoot by all of these. And then also at the very top, I had in this lattice up here, the supports, the grates, whatever. But I originally had them made out of the gray concrete and it just looked too thick and too clunky. So I replaced it with the same material as all that down there with the polished deep slate walls. And I think that makes everything look a little bit nicer. So now the chimney is pretty much finished. And I can't remember if this was done by the time I had the last video made, but I do have the spiral that goes down the entire chimney. I can't remember if that was something I did before my last video was made, or if it was something I did when I was live streaming the past few months. But just in case, that is also done. So that will bring me to the next part, where we basically just go inside where all the rest of the work has been done. So nothing has changed to the showroom yet, or the main hallway here, although I do have some plans to do some stuff to the showroom in the future, but that won't be done for a little while. So we'll come in through here into the chocolate room, where I've done a good bit of work in here. The main thing that I've done in here, as well as across the entire factory, is I replaced the way that I was lighting up all the rooms. So before, basically what I was doing, at least in the chocolate room, is I was using sea lanterns, put a hole in the ground, put the lantern in, and then I covered it up with a lime green carpet. but it looked really clunky. It didn't look good. It made it look like a build from a decade ago instead of something more modern. So what I did was I replaced all the lights with these light blocks, and you can see here just how many I used because they show up everywhere. So basically everywhere that there was a sea lantern, I just removed it and put a light block source on here. So this makes everything look a lot nicer. There are no more clunky carpets. These colorful carpets are supposed to be here, so that's why these are still here. But all of the lime green carpets are gone, and now it's a nice smooth rolling green, terrain feature basically. Other than that, other stuff I did in the chocolate room is I went through and did another pass of detailing. It was very minor, but I added in some blocks such as these right here. And then I did a good bit of work over here by removing some of these crystals. I just thought they looked a little bit too cluttered. And then I spread out some candles to look like just little pieces of candy growing out of the grass a little bit more naturally. And then in a similar way, I removed the patch of crystals that I had, I believe, in this area right here. I just didn't like how it looked, so I removed those. And now the crystals are spread out much more evenly throughout the room. And every once in a while, I like to come through the chocolate room and go through another, spree of detailing to just keep adding to it. And I'm really happy with how it looks so far. Another small change I made has to do with the structure at the top of the waterfall. Originally I just had this block come straight across and it was a flat shelf, but I undid that and came up with a little bit of a better design that's more accurate to the look in the movie, that has more of a curved shape that slowly goes back to the wall right here. And it looks a lot better even though it's a very minor detail. But every time I come into the chocolate room now, when I look up at the waterfall, I'm much more pleased with how the general shape of it looks. The last and biggest thing I did to the chocolate room is actually creating a whole new pathway into the room itself. If anybody is familiar with the pretty awful tie-in game that came out when the movie did in 2005 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, there was a part in the chocolate room level where there's a pathway that opens up on this side of the room into a new door and hallway basically that takes you to other parts of the factory. And for a while, I've been having a problem of I wanted a door that goes into the chocolate room that leads to other areas of the factory that is not just the little door you go through when you first come into the factory, because that's a very linear hallway that you can really only go, one direction in. There's not a lot of room to add off branching pathways to that hallway back there. So I wanted the chocolate room to be accessible another way, and it was brought up to me by someone watching my live stream that in that game there was a doorway over here. So I tried to recreate it as close as I could to the game, even though it's not canon to the movie, but since I'm adding in a bunch of these extra rooms and stuff anyway, I don't really care, because it's hidden off this way anyway, so if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't see it. But if you go down this little pathway right here, there's sort of this little cave that leads into a hallway into a new corridor section. So this is one of the biggest things I've added. So you go in through here, and this is a brand new hallway that goes down in both directions that will have at least 5 new rooms. Right now, due to space constraints, I had enough room to have a long enough hallway for 2 rooms on this side and then 3 down this way, but I am thinking of potentially other ways of extending this hallway in other directions to have more room. But there are no rooms built in these doors yet. These are just, false doors right now. But this is another area that I'm going to have some additional rooms in the factory that people can go explore. Because I wanted rooms that were earlier up in the tour, if that makes sense, for people to explore. Because right now, all of the additional rooms are at the end, basically, of the Chocolate River ride. But I wanted some additional rooms a little bit earlier on in the factory that you could go to, so that accomplished my goal of wanting and having new rooms that are before you even get onto the boat ride. So it's just something else you can do. And then once again, that takes you into the chocolate room, just like that. I also should mention that this new little hallway here allowed me to move the area where the elevator access for the chocolate room is. Before, if you remember, I had it in this little pillar building right here. I had the hillside conveniently basically right up against this, so it naturally looked like it was just a way to get into this building. But inside of here is very small, it's very tight, and it actually wasn't large enough for me to put in my standard elevator stop that I normally put in all the rooms. I had to compress it a lot, and it just didn't really look right. I didn't have enough room, for example, to have in a piston door. I had to have just oak doors right here, so it looked kind of clunky and very temporary. I was never happy with it. But since I had this newfound space in this hallway, I was able to just recess it into the hall right here. So this is where the elevator stop for the chocolate room is now. So I'm a lot happier with this placement than before. So that pretty much does it for the chocolate room, and then the next segment is basically going to be talking about the Chocolate River ride. So all of the work has been done at the end of the river here, and this is what the majority of my live streams were basically working on, and that is in these two little openings on these two sides, I basically extended the river to give me more space to add in more rooms, because I wanted this river system to feel very vast and even larger than what we see in the movie. So I didn't have any room on this side, in this little cove, to add in any rooms because I have a bunch of other stuff on the other side of these walls blocking me from basically adding anything. But on the left and right sides, I had basically unlimited amounts of room. So I added in a whole new little passageway on this side that houses 7 new rooms. And this also acts as another way to get to the main corridor that connects to the inventing room and the really large spiral staircase that has a bunch of other rooms attached to it that I'm pretty sure I've shown that in my other videos. But yeah, I have 7 new rooms in here, and these are actually all finished. I added this in quite a while ago at this point. So you can take your boat in this way, and for me to explain what I was just talking about a little bit better about it connecting to the hallway in the inventing room, if you go into the inventing room this way, it's basically a straight shot from the time you enter from the proper entrance until you go through this door over here, which takes you into what I call the main corridor, and then there's the staircase over there. But I wanted another way to get into this corridor that wasn't just through the inventing room. So that was one of the main reasons I added in that new extension to the river over there. Because if you go through this door, through this funky little hallway, it takes you right out to that area, and this is where we just were flying through. So you can either get to that hallway by going through the inventing room, which is right over there, or you can come in this river passage, come down, and then go in to the hallway over there, which takes you to the entire rest of the factory, basically. I just felt like for such an important hallway that leads you to the rest of the factory, there should be another entrance that isn't reliant on you going into a room. Like, if you don't want to go into the inventing room, you should still have a way to get there, is what I was thinking. So that's this hallway, or this passageway over here. I made the choice that I wanted to keep it on the same level as that room, so there's no change in elevation. But over on this side, I did change it up a little bit. So just so these two areas didn't look too similar, on the left side, I decided to basically do the style that the whole rest of the Chocolate River is, and that's with it gradually sloping down with the colorful pillars. So you come through the little tunnel right there, and we go down a few blocks. This isn't nearly as large as the other parts of the river, but I think it accomplishes the job of adding in some scale, and like you're going somewhere else. There are no rooms in this area of the river. I don't really plan to add any because there's just no room on the other side of these walls. But you come down into this level, and then it opens up into another large dome that houses 3 new rooms. Now this room over here is complete. This one over here is almost complete, and then this one hasn't really been started at all. As you can see, it's just a empty area. This whole thing pretty much, and then these 2 rooms I built on the live stream. So if you're interested in seeing what's inside of those rooms, you can go back and scroll through and browse through the replays if you'd like. But I really wanted the Chocolate River to feel larger. I just felt like it felt a little bit too small, only based on the areas in the movie. So I'm really happy that these 2 new extensions, I think, add in a lot of size. And I have thought about potentially trying to find other ways to make it even larger, although I feel like that would be something that is going to be on the back burner for a very long time, because I'm happy with how it is now, and it's a lot of work to add in the new extensions. Mainly because if you add in a new extension of the river, you have to fill it up with new rooms, and the rooms take a long time to make, and there's other areas of the factory that I want to add rooms in before I put more on the river ride. So yeah, this area over here is basically done. This section is very close to being complete, but once that is wrapped up, then the Chocolate River, I think, will officially be finally done. Really, the last things I need to talk about are just more lighting upgrades that are to the 3 remaining movie rooms, as I like to call them. So, I know we just went through the inventing room, but I didn't really talk about it, obviously. But if you were looking really close, you might have noticed that the lighting inside of here has also been completely upgraded. Before, I did the same thing like I did in the chocolate room, of putting a hole in the ground, putting in a sea lantern, and then putting a piece of black carpet on top to cover it. I obviously, just like the chocolate room, I didn't like how it looked, so I used, once again, the light blocks to, cover up a lot of those, well, all of them really, on the ground. So once again, everywhere that there was a sea lantern, I just removed it and put in a light block, and it makes the ground look a lot more smooth, just like the black floor in the movie. And then it also allowed me to add in a little bit more moody lighting up top here. Before, I couldn't really think of a good way to light up the Oompa Loompa walkways up top, so it was really just in darkness, and I was never happy with it because in the movie you can see it pretty clearly, the little walkway up here. So I was able to add in lights, because they're invisible obviously, to light up the hallway, and then I was able to add in a little bit more lighting in some areas, like to make it look more like the shots in the movie. With this contraption right here, I was able to put a light, right there to light up the bottom. And then it gets a little bit darker as you go up towards the ceiling. So I was really happy with the lighting upgrades in here. I think it looks a lot better. And then the next area that we will look at is the nut room. So I think this initial shot alone really shows how helpful these light blocks are, especially if you go back to my original video where I was showing this room. I think this looks so much better. There are no shadows that, are covering up areas other than the shadows that are just built into the game, and there's really nothing you can do about it. But the walls are nice and bright, the floor is nice and bright, and it just looks, I think, so much better, a lot closer to how the movie looks. And then once again, I was able to do some stuff up here where I was able, the nut machine up here, I was able to add in more lights to properly illuminate it, so it looks like it's actually next to the glass lights in the ceiling, because before it was oddly dark. So now that's nice and bright. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how this looks. Now, one thing I still haven't done is I have not redone the stripes on the floor yet. I've talked about this on my live stream a few times. I might have even talked about it in my video where I was showing off this room in more detail. But I've never been happy with how the stripes have turned out, and I've been meaning to redo them for a long time. They're just a real pain in the butt to do these, so I've been putting it off. But eventually I will finally redo the stripes so they're a little bit more consistent all the way around. But yeah, really happy with how this looks. I think this is probably the second best room that has benefited from the new lighting. And then the TV room, I think, it looks the best out of all of them with the new lighting, so I'm really happy with that. So we're going to go take a look at that now. Something I almost forgot about, there actually is one change to the exploding candy room since the last time I made a video, and that's down here on the 2 main pillars. I added in this bridge that connects the 2 pillars because I was trying to think of a way I could put in an elevator stop to this room, and it's not really a room, it's more just like a wide open space with structure that happens to occupy that space. So I was basically thinking of, these towers really the only area that I could put in an elevator stop. So that's what I did right here. It doesn't have an opening door, like a sliding door, because you really can't see these openings from the main elevator track. And the reason I put this bridge down so far from the main track is so whenever you're going across, if you just look straight, you don't see that bridge down there, because to my knowledge there's nothing like this in the movie. So if you're just going across like this, you're not going to see it. It's only there if you intend to go there. So it's not hooked up right now like none of the other stops are, but this will be a way to quote-unquote fast travel to this room just like that. If you just want to kind of take in the sights of all the fireworks going off. They're turned off right now. And then on this side over here, what I originally put in, I'm trying to think of what to put in here. So I just put in like an actual more accurate little model, I guess you could say, of the glass elevator with the track going from the top down to the bottom. But I'm probably going to remove that and instead put in a little lever that controls the fireworks to turn them on and off. So right now I have a lever that turns the whole system on and off. It's hidden in a really awkward spot, like at the bottom of the room. I can never find it easily, and it's always a pain if I want to go turn them on and off. I have to try to find that lever every time. So instead I'm just going to remove that and run the signal up to here. So I can just come into this room, or anybody when the download goes out can just come into this room, turn the lever on and off, and that will turn all the fireworks on and off. Because the fireworks, they're kind of not a good thing to have running all the time, because if you're in this area or even off a little bit in the distance, if you have this chunk loaded, the fireworks can lower your FPS by a lot just because of how many are going off at once. So I pretty much always leave the system off, except whenever I'm making a video or just taking a scenic ride through here. So that'll be really nice and convenient. But yeah, now we'll actually go to the TV room. The first change I made was originally this TV room didn't really have an official elevator stop. It just kind of teleported you right here into the middle, and then I had a button on the wall to take you to other areas. However, I didn't really like that, so I opened up this little cove right here into a proper elevator spot that will have buttons to all the different rooms in here. And then through the TV room itself, this is only a one wide door because the room is made up of circles, so I couldn't really fit in a two wide door because it would be uneven. But anyway, you go through the TV room, and then this is where I think the lighting blocks help the most. I just think this looks so cool. It looks like the movie because the room is just insanely bright due to the whole room being painted white and there being lights everywhere. I tried to pull this effect off before when I was using light blocks by having the frog lights just spaced out in the ceiling and then on the floor. But again, it looked really clunky having the continuity of the nice white ceiling broken up, and then I had the white carpets on the floor. It just didn't look very good. So yeah, I basically covered this entire room with light blocks because this is the brightest room in the whole movie. It's supposed to be a very stark contrast to where you're coming from into this super bright room, and I couldn't be happier with how this looks. It almost looks fake with how bright, the blocks are, but I think it just looks perfect, so really happy with that. And now I actually like coming in here because I just kind of hated how it looked before. So yeah, I really like that. And I think with that, that's pretty much all of the changes that I can think that I've made, at least somewhat major changes, other than maybe adding in a little block here and there. But yeah, like I said at the beginning of the video, I basically wanted to make this as just a way to chronicle all the changes I've made since my last video. So if people want to come and see what I've been doing the past few months, without wanting to scroll through hours and hours of live streams, it would just be an easy way to see everything that's changed. Now obviously, the progress on the factory has been a little bit slower these past few months, mainly because the weather's really nice out. It's summertime, so I've been doing things other than just sitting at my computer playing Minecraft. But I anticipate, once the weather starts to get cooler in the fall and in the winter, I'll probably put more time into it. and then progress will be faster. But I have been making slow but steady progress on the whole thing. I do try to live stream at least once a week. I haven't been great with that recently, but if you're interested and if you want to see more frequent updates on what happens around the build, you can try to tune into a live stream and see what I'm working on. But other than that, I think that's pretty much going to do it. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.